Hello and welcome to Squeeze, a management podcast designed to squeeze the best out of you. I'm Josh.
And I'm Bob.
And welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been many months, maybe years.
I think the last one was with McLaren. With Piers, and I think from memory it was episode 46, and so that was last year. Last year at some point. So we've had a big old break from the podcast.
Yeah. Why is that? What's your problem?
Fatigue. A little bit of fatigue, maybe. But also, we've just been super busy, which perhaps we'll get into, talking about that. And life took over a little bit. And I just think that, we kind of run out of topics a little bit.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd freshen it up.
I mean, 46 episodes is not insignificant, is it?
No, it's quite a body of work.
Each one was focused on a slightly different area of kind of management and leadership. So we did, it's a lot of content. And
loads of content,
And sometimes it's good to have a little break and refresh and come back to it with new eyes and a bit of a different vision.
Yeah.
What is going to be different about the podcast going forward, do you think?
So technically we're videoing it, so we're going to be on YouTube as well as the Squeeze podcast channel, tool thing, podcasty thing. So that's a bit of a change. What else might be different? Elephant in the room, Will's not here. That's not that he might not be here in the future. It's just that we thought we would launch this and get on with it with the two of us in the room. So very possibly we'll have Will in on occasions again in the future. So that's a little bit different. We're just going to kind of make life easier and do it when we can in the office, as opposed to having to plan diaries around that specifically.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think, similar in that we want to hit topics that are useful for managers, that are interesting in the world of learning and development, and go with stuff that is thematic, stuff that is current, what's going on. And I think this first one, or this return of, is probably just a little bit of scene setting and what we've been up to and how we're seeing the world at the moment in terms of management, leadership, training, development, coaching, those sorts of things.
Yeah, a little bit of a check-in with you guys, our listeners, and a bit of a catch-up on what we've been doing, what's changed for us, because there has been, over the last 6 to 9 months, some changes in what we've been doing and some things we've done in the business, and particularly on what I'm doing in the business. And so we'll talk about that. But you talk about being busy over the last period, and that was part of the kind of shrinking of Squeeze as a podcast. What's been going on for iManage?
In that time. Well, many long-term listeners anyway will know that we've been specialising in managing remote teams over a number of years, not just in the pandemic, but that clearly came to a head in 2019, and we suddenly got very busy because our website had quite a lot on it around managing remote teams, being a remote team worker, and we've exploded, really. I mean, we've had the 2 biggest years in terms of organisational growth we've ever had, but that's meant a lot of delivery. So we've had to get our heads down. Once the work comes in, you have to deliver it. That's the downside of work coming in. Of course, the right problem, without any question. But we have done.
If only you could sell and never deliver.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? I don't know. We have done thousands of hours with thousands of people over the last 2 years, haven't we? I mean, hundreds and hundreds of training courses, generally shorter because they've been online much more, so sort of half-day type things, but not exclusively. There's been longer ones, but a very different delivery format over the last 2 years that has been pretty intense, to be fair. And we've had ridiculous days where I've been up at sort of stupid o'clock and delivering training in Australia, and then going on to do training in the UK. And I think I had one 2-day span where I was then finishing the day doing stuff in the US. And I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a lesson from that. But even this week, I started Monday morning very early in here doing some work with a group in India, and then went on to deliver a day for UK-centred group. So we've had a lot of that. We've had a lot of long days, a lot of time in the studio type environment delivering training. So that was a primary driver, one of the drivers in us saying, okay, let's just do what we need to do here and manage our time a bit better. And we're now seeing a slight change in that, I think. We're starting to see face-to-face come back in quite a strong way. I think the last 6 to 8 weeks, I've done a whole lot more face-to-face training, and that definitely is coming back with a vengeance. People wanting to get together again and have a physical training course.
Yeah.
So enjoying that actually. I think we've laughed a lot over the last few weeks face to face in a way that's more fun and relaxed and more emotional than online. It's just felt that online we've become quite formal. We get down to business night, and I wonder actually whether it's something to do with the microsecond delays with your humour is a very spontaneous thing, isn't it? And if you're muted, or there's a slight delay, or somebody else is talking, you don't know how to interject in online. It's hard for that natural
rapport.
Natural fun to emerge in a session. But when you're face to face, somebody will always say something, and the group will erupt, and we'll laugh about it. It's been enjoyable going back to some face to face stuff.
Okay.
But it is a mixture, I think. Now we're seeing clients who are taking both. We've got a management program running with one client at the moment where we're doing a group in London, a group in Birmingham, and then an online group which is pretty well worldwide attendees. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's not all gone back to face to face yet. And probably won't.
I mean, from our perspective, from your perspective, maybe that's probably quite a nice mix, because it's great to get back into the real world, and you can't really, like you said, replace a lot of that stuff that you get in a face-to-face scenario, but not having to travel every day, that's always going to be a bit of a benefit, isn't it? So a mix is quite a nice place to be.
It really is, I mean, this is a case in point this week, because I've just worked with 2 clients this week, but been busy all week. And it's all been online. So having had several weeks of being out and about, it's been nice to come back and say, okay, this week I'm settled here. I can go home at night. And it just takes a little bit of the pressure off not to do that travel. So there's always pros and cons in all of this.
Cool. So that's all good stuff. Should we talk about the other things that changed over the last 6-9 months? Should we talk about coaching?
Talk about coaching.
How do you want to start this piece?
Well, I think, in a sense, you're taking the lead on this. I've never qualified as a coach, but we've always had sort of, we train people to be coaches as managers. We have Will, accredited coach, who's worked as our coach, really our predominant coach for many years. And I've taken a deliberate decision not to go down that route, so that I don't end up just into another groove of delivery. And in this instance, I'm really happy to step up and be part of the management and leadership of this, and allow others who have that skill and the qualifications in this case to pick it up. So that's meant really, you've got interested in it, and we've talk to us about what you've done.
Well, we've been on an interesting journey with coaching, and with the future of the business and what the business is going to look like. And I guess it probably was about 9 months ago now we started talking about coaching, with kind of my future at the company in mind, as opposed to training, because we could go into kind of the differences and the subtleties. They're in a similar world, aren't they? And they cover similar topic areas, but they're very different in their approach, the philosophy that's behind them, and ultimately the practice of it. How does it look? What does it feel like? And I have to say, as with everything, I was probably originally quite sceptical. I think that's just my mindset. As you know, I ask a lot of questions about things, and I don't tend to buy into something until I feel I've experienced the value, or been convinced of why it's worth time, or why it's what value it's bringing. And so that was a question I had constantly in my mind as we began the process of looking into coaching. And I guess a couple of months after having that conversation, I started a qualification process with Barefoot, who are a massive provider of training up new coaches in the UK. Maybe even more than the UK, I'm not sure. They're based here. And so that was about a 6-month program for me, after which you become accredited by them, and then go on to be accredited by the ICF, which is a process I'm going through now. And it's been, I mean, it sounds dramatic to say life-changing. It does sound dramatic, but I do think in lots of ways it changed my life. So I do think it was life-changing for me. Like I said, I went into it quite sceptical about the process and about the value it really brought to people, and had my mind changed over the course of 6 months, and bought into the process, I suppose. And that happened because I experienced a lot of it. So when you go through that training, you not only coach a lot, but you're coached a lot. And so you, I guess, experience what that can feel like. And I think learning to place it properly as an offering. So what is the value of coaching? Really delving into what is the point, and exploring the idea that what you're trying to do is cultivate and build a safe space that potentially doesn't exist anywhere else in a person's life. And coming to see it that way for me changed my view of the importance of it, and how impactful it can be for people, and the fact that I think most people I think everybody would benefit from coaching. Not everybody's going to receive it, but it'd be great if they did. And left me in a place where, it impacts your personal life as well as your professional life, because the way you think about problems and the way you process information, roadblocks in your personal life changes, and it even causes weird moments in your marriage and in your other relationships where you're kind of thinking, I think a really effective way of getting to a solution here would be to take a coaching mindset, but that's not always helpful. And that's something Will's talked about before, and I kind of, now I understand that more. And so really have seen the value of it. And so I guess, where are we now? Well, we're in the process of building the coaching facility that iManage can offer. Practice. So me as a coach, but others as well, we're bringing in that can offer kind of different experiences as coaches, and different, I guess, leanings, which is an important thing. Certain coaches have different styles and techniques and preferences, and they match up with different coaches. So it's useful as a practice to be able to offer different coaches. And so we're kind of building that. We're building that now, and I'm still working towards my ICF accreditation. That takes 100 hours of coaching. So I'm well on the way to that now. Can still practice, obviously. That's not it's an unregulated industry. We've spoken about that before as well. So you can obviously go out and practice without having any training. But for us, I think we value that, don't we? We want to say that our coaches are accredited.
Definitely. 100%. So that we can say we are offering people who know what they're doing. Rather than somebody who just set themselves up and built a website and said, I'm a coach. Without any doubt, we value that.
So that's kind of been the journey. I don't know what else you want to say about it.
Well, I think it's worth saying that some of our clients out there, we've offered your services in that regard, coaching, and so we've been working with a number of different organisations, which is quite interesting for you, because in some respects, a new coach seldom gets access to the types of people that the last 22 years means we've got access to. So you've been coaching CEOs,
really jumping at the deep end, but all the way down from CEOs all the way down to interns. So like a massive range of people from a broad spectrum of industries, which has been so helpful for me, because what you are forced to learn quickly is that stop relying on what you know
Yeah.
As in your knowledge about their industry, your knowledge about even the kind of like the lingo they use. That every industry has its own grammar and its own language and its own culture, and letting go of needing to know any of that is a scary process, because you go into a conversation with people thinking, I don't know what that meant, or I don't know necessarily what you're saying now and how that relates to the other things. Being able to step back and say that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the process of coaching, which remains consistent whether you're a CEO in civil engineering or an intern at a radio station. The process is the same, and it's only for me by sort of doing that I've been able to really trust that, or my trust in that is growing.
That's helpful.
Seeing it be effective over here and over here, and so it's been good. And I know that, again, it's been a blessing in the sense that a lot of coaches that come out of the Barefoot program don't necessarily have a ready-made client list who they can jump into. So a lot of them struggle with finding people to coach. So
understandably.
It's tough. So it's massive benefit of being part of iManage, really.
And our history and the contacts that we have, which are many. Over 22 years we've worked with all sorts and know a lot of people. And in some regard, that is a really great thing for us at this stage in our company life, because it does make things easier. We've had a couple of years without any exhibitions, for example, and not really been able to be out there and push ourselves out other than search engine optimization, which has been good. But our network has just kept servicing us, really, to some extent. And so I've always thought the network is so critical in organisations, but it's really proven itself the last couple of years. Interestingly, we are going back to exhibitions, aren't we? So if any of you know of World of Learning, connected with that at all, we will be there this year for the first time for a few years. And looking forward to that, actually. It'll be quite interesting to meet new people. And fascinating. I've just had a conversation this afternoon with somebody who's been on the World of Learning site, noticed our name and looking for a provider and contacted us. So that's unusual. Even before the exhibitions happened, we're into conversations with people. I've never experienced that before. So so people seem to be hungry to go back to
face
some of
that.
Face-to-face
it's one of those things that you think could have just died a death after COVID, but it seems to be coming back. Maybe again it highlights that value of connecting relationally with somebody, and how important that is in the kind of sales process. It's not all about how visible is your website. Sometimes it's about how much of a connection do I have with the person.
Really, and
that doesn't go away, does it?
It doesn't. It never does. No. So we're looking to kind of build a portfolio of coaches so we can provide that offering. So that includes Will, that people on the podcast will know well, and others that we are connected with and tapped into to sort of be a substantial provider in that space, really. And without mincing my words, I'm staring at retirement, really. In the next 8 years I think I will be retiring. I still believe in retirement, which maybe many people don't know. I don't know. But that whole coaching practice gives you a continual opportunity with the iManage brand, which is quite exciting, quite fun as we move forward.
Definitely. Big stuff. Anything else you want to say in this episode?
Well, it would be good actually to say that if you are listening and you've got particular topics of interest or areas that you would like to explore, we'd really like to tap into that. So as always, be prepared to give us some feedback. Send us an email at info@imanageperformance.com. Probably is the easiest route in, or you can probably respond on the podcast tool itself that you're listening on.
You can leave a comment probably, but info@ is probably more direct.
To get our attention, and we can tune into new topics. But we would like this to have value, rather than just chewing the fat. So topics that are meaningful to our audience and can help them develop and fine-tune what they do as managers. So I think probably that's all we want to cover off in the first one, and we look forward to maybe building up the next 46 episodes and seeing where that goes.
One at a time.
One at a time.